everyone, welcome back to the Salon Guy on Demand. My name is Lauren Lasacco and today I'm going to be showing you an updo tutorial. So let's get started. So the updo that I'm going to be creating for you guys today is going to be a braided to the side chignon. So I'm going to have a Dutch braid and a fishtail braid going back into a really soft low chignon. And I'm going to show you guys exactly how I do it. So today we're going to start off by working with her natural parting, which is parted heavily over to the side. I sectioned out behind her ears and I'm leaving out the back. So I'm going to start on the heavy side and I'm going to start with the Dutch braid. So I'm going to come around. So I'm going to start with the Dutch braid and I'm going to use a little bit of a wax. That way it keeps the frizz down and it keeps everything nice and in place. Rub that in my hands a little bit, get it in there. You want to work it through the mid shaft into the ends. And a Dutch braid is like a traditional 3-strand braid, only instead of working to the front, you're going to put everything underneath, like so. I'm going to show you. Take a small section from the top. And you have a little bit of this wax in here, so it's going to give the hair a little bit of a hold so it doesn't slip through your fingers. Start with 3 sections, and you're just going to be putting the hair underneath like this. So just keep feeding into the braid. You want this to be tight, but you don't want it to be too tight, because what we're going to do is we're going to pull the braid apart. We're going to make the braid nice and thick. So this is kind of going to be a little bit more of like an editorial updo. So as I get halfway down to her ear, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start opening up this braid a little bit. You don't want to braid it all the way through, because once you get to the end, it's going to be really hard to pull this braid out and make it bigger. So pull it apart. Try and keep in mind that you want the braid to start a little bit bigger here and then get a little bit bigger towards the bottom. So now we're going to take a clear elastic band and we're going to secure the braid. You don't have to worry so much about braiding it all the way to the end, because this part here is going to be hidden anyway. So after you secure it, you're just going to pull the braid apart. Remember, this is editorial, so it doesn't have to be super done. It doesn't have to be really done. And when you're doing braiding, you want it to kind of be bohemian and fun, so don't be afraid to really get in there and pull the braid apart and play with it a little bit. So after you secure the braid, now we're ready to start our second section. So this here is going to be a fishtail braid, and to give it a little bit more texture, I want to go in with the TheSalonGuy salt spray, and I'm going to go in with the Samvia texture iron. So you're going to want to kind of just give it a good spritz. And then we're going to start with the first section. You kind of want to keep the sections thin when you're working with this. This is just going to enhance the braid. It's going to make it a little bit fuller. And this you could do quickly. So we're going to start with the first section, work our way up, and then I will show you guys how I do a fishtail braid. After I'm done crimping the hair or texturizing the hair, I'm just going to go in with my boar's head brush, brush it out, and then we're going to begin our French fishtail braid. I'm just going to tilt my beautiful model's head down a little bit, and we're going to be taking a small section just like we started the previous braid, and we're going to break this into 2 sections. So we're going to take hair from the left, feed it to the right, and then the right to feed it to the left, and that's exactly how you do a fishtail braid. Taking a little hair from the outer corner, feed it to the right hand side, take a little from the left and feed it to the right. Now when you're doing a French fishtail, you want to anchor the hair. So you're going to take a little bit from this side, feed it to the right, and then you're going to take a small section and also feed that to the right as well. Now, I normally put the wax on the back of my hand just in case I get any flyaways. I could just dip into my wax and run it through the hair. So we're gonna take a little bit from the right, feed it to the left, and we're gonna take a section, feed that over as well. And we're just gonna keep doing this down the hair shaft. This takes a little bit of practice, but once you get the hang of it, I promise it's easy. Just be patient. Taking smaller sections is also gonna make your fishtail braid look more defined. Now, as you can see, the fishtail braid is finally secure, and I'm just working my way down the hair shaft. And the trick to a really defined fishtail is taking small pieces of hair from the back of the braid and wrapping them forward. So still, I only have 2 sections, and I'm just feeding each hand with a little bit of hair from the back of the braid. When you get about halfway, you want to start loosening up the fishtail braid because we want to make it a little bit bigger. So I'm going to stop right about here, secure that with my right hand. Now with my left hand, I'm going to come back up on top, and I'm going to start pulling out some of the hair just by using my nails. Just using my nails and pulling out little pieces of hair. That way it's defining the outer part of the braid, making it look like a true fishtail braid. What I'm doing here is I'm softening up the fishtail that we're creating by using the pads of my fingertips, and I'm just pulling it. I want this to be really loose, and I want it to be really big. So you're just going to keep pulling and playing with it until you're happy with the size of it. And if it's too tight and you find that you have a hard time loosening it up, just go in, use the pads of your fingertips. It gives it that messy, really bohemian look, which is what we're going for. We don't want this updo to be too done. You want it to kind of be fun and messy. So I got to the end of the hair, and now I'm going to secure it with a clear elastic. And then what we're gonna do is we're just gonna go in and we're just gonna pull this braid apart a little bit more. It's a little too tight for me. So I'm just gonna go in and mess with it a little. Just use the pads of your fingertips, really pull it apart. You wanna be able to see the bone of the braid going straight down. So just keep playing with it until you're happy with it. See how you have these little pieces here? This is kind of what you're trying to achieve. So you're just gonna take the tip of your fingernail and you're just gonna pull them out slightly, making it a little bigger. Now what this is gonna do, this is gonna wrap around the chignon, give it a really elegant bohemian vibe. This look is awesome if you're lazy and you don't feel like doing your hair and you want to just throw your hair in a braid to the side, or if you're going to a wedding, you could dress it up or dress it down. So we finished our braids, as you see here, and the back section, I had this pinned back before. What I did was I just gathered it to the left side, secured it with a clear elastic, and now I'm gonna work on the right side of her head. And I'm just gonna go ahead and create just a loose braid. I want this to lay flatter against the head, so I'm just adding in my wax just to get all her flyaways down. And then we're gonna go ahead and just do a traditional 3-strand braid. So we're gonna take our 2 fingers, create 3 sections in the hair, and then a traditional 3-strand braid is just loose. And before we did a Dutch braid, so we were feeding the hair underneath. Now we're feeding the hair on top like this. And I'm gonna go ahead, pull this braid apart because I want this to be a big braid as well. So we finally finished the third braid, the regular traditional 3-strand braid. Now I'm gonna move on to the back of her head where we have the ponytail. And I'm gonna be using, it's kind of like a sock bun. I just cut it in half, and this is what we're gonna be using to create her chignon. So I'm just gonna go in with a light hairspray, and we're gonna gather all this hair. Now what I'm gonna do with the back is I split the ponytail in half, and I'm gonna take the bottom section and secure it right at the bottom. I'm gonna go ahead and take my sock bun that I created, and I'm gonna roll it up the hair strands like this, or hair strands. And it looks good right about there, so I'm gonna fasten it in just like that. So you wanna start fastening from the top and then work your way down to the bottom. And her hair is pretty heavy, so I'm gonna be using a little bit more pins than usual. So I'm just finishing up my final pinning. I think her brain is pinned at this point. So you also wanna ask your client, make sure that everything is comfortable, make them shake their head. Does everything feel comfortable? Mm-hmm. Perfect. We're gonna drop this top section, and we're going to spread this out. That way we could make the chignon look a little bit neater. So I'm gonna go in with my boar's head brush. And it's okay if these pins are showing, because the braids are gonna lay on top of them, so they're not gonna be showing once we do that. Brush it down like so. If you have a flat iron, I would turn it on at this point. Spray the hair, gather it together. If you wanna go in with a little bit of shine spray, that would be good too. I'm gonna take my iron and smooth this down. I want it to be really sleek, really shiny. And then after that, what I'm gonna do is just tease a little bit underneath. That way, it gives the hair a little bit of hold, and it will complete the rest of the chignon. So going in with my tail comb, tease it a little bit. We're going to spread the hair like this, brushing it in the direction that we want. And then we're also gonna spray it really good too, so it doesn't go anywhere. So see how that lays on top? It just makes everything look a little bit neater, and it covers up all of the bumps that you had underneath. And this is where it gets a little bit tricky. So have your pins ready, because we're gonna use our tail comb, and we're just gonna kind of sweep all this hair underneath. So you're gonna have your client tilt their head down a tiny bit, like this, and just tuck it right under, and sweeping everything else out to the side. And then we'll worry about this later. So see how you get a nice shape, and it looks a lot cleaner. So your main focus is just to keep this smooth. Don't worry about any of this later, because we're gonna play with this as soon as we come back. So this part that we just pinned, just smooth these pieces out a little bit. And you could kind of look and see where you want to place this. I think I'm going to do something coming across the top. So I'm going to make sure this is nice and smooth, spray with a little bit of hairspray, and then we're just going to swing this around and have this coming across the top like this. That will cover up the elastic that you have showing through there, and we'll also just give it like a cleaner look. I kind of like that. When you do an updo, you want to step away from what you're working on and look at it, just to make sure that everything's in place, because when you're working so close to something, it looks completely different when you step away from it. So this is fastened, and then I'm going to show you exactly what I'm going to do with the braids. We'll be right back. So starting with the right side of the head, we're going to take this braid that we did before, and we're just going to place it lightly on top. So we're going to flip this up here, because this is going to get covered. We're going to pin it right about there, right where the elastic is. Now you can get creative with this. You can do a fishtail braid there. You could do whatever braid that you are in the mood for. I just happen to want to switch it up and do a 3-strand. Tuck that in. This is sticking out a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a pin and just secure this right here. That way nothing's sticking out. And then we're going to take care of these baby hairs that she has here. Spray it in place. Now what you're gonna wanna do is see where you want this braid to fall. That way you can get creative and see where it looks best. I think that I'm gonna leave this loose as well and just kind of have it wrapping around the other braid. Kind of like the way that looks. So I'm just gonna have her look down and I'm just gonna secure a few pins underneath. Just make sure that the client's comfortable too, because you know that she's gonna have this in for a long time and you don't want her to have a migraine after 30 minutes. See how they're seamlessly overlapping each other? And I would honestly use black pins, but I wanted you guys to be able to see exactly where I'm pinning, so I decided to use bronze. But if she was going somewhere, we would definitely be using black. So taking your final braid, we're gonna wrap this around the top, covering any extra pieces that we had out. And I'm gonna secure that baby right there. So this is just a fun way to switch up your look, make it look like you have more hair by stuffing it with either extensions or a sock bun. I want some of it to be laying on her face, so I think I'm just gonna go back in, pull some of this braid out a little bit bigger. And then we're just gonna go in with some pins and pin any excess pieces that are sticking out or that aren't laying right. And then I'll show you the finished look as soon as we come right back. So this is the final look that we have. We have our Dutch braid, our fishtail braid, and we have just a regular traditional 3-strand braid into a chignon. See how it's nice and smooth on the bottom? And then you have all this texture on top. And that's it for our final look.
Ready and action.
Thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this braided updo tutorial, and I hope to catch you guys next time on the Salon Guy on Demand.